Hi, hello everyone. I'm going to have a series of videos regarding the inland spousal sponsorship application process in Canada. So if your spouse or partner is living with you in Canada and you want to sponsor him or her, then this video is for you. Whether you are applying for yourself or getting someone close, this tutorial video will give you a clear step-by-step of how to apply. First, you create an account or sign in. Second, get your forms and documents ready. Third, pay your application fees and then submit the completed application. Okay. And this is the first part, an overview of spouse or common law partners in Canada class. Let's get started. In the website of IRCC, you select live in Canada permanently. Okay. And then after that, you select family sponsorship. And then after that, you select sponsor your spouse, partner, or dependent children. Okay, so here you go. That is sponsor your spouse, partner, or child. All right. Now let's understand a little bit about a sponsor, what it means to be a sponsor. Okay, so being a sponsor, it means that you must commit to support the people that you are sponsoring, and in this case, that is your spouse, your common law partner, your conjugal partner, or child, even if your situation changes. And in order to become a sponsor, you must complete and sign a form that is called the undertaking. Okay, and the undertakings is a promise that you need to support financially to the people you are sponsoring, and making sure that people are not depending on the government social assistance. For example, in Ontario, those people, when they comes to Canada, they are not receiving Ontario Works, or it is called welfare. How long you have to support someone? That is the undertaking duration. For the spouse and common law partner or conjugal partner, that is 3 years. And for the dependent child over 20 years old, 3 years. And for the dependent child under 22 years old, that is 10 years of undertaking, or until the child becomes 25 years old, whichever comes first. All right. And sponsorship agreement, it will include the food, clothing, shelter, and other needs for everyday living. And you will need to be responsible for the dental care, the eye care, and other health needs that are not covered by public health services. All right. So let's go to the other options of checking if you are eligible to be a sponsor. Okay, so click in here. Okay, so who can sponsor? You can sponsor your spouse, common law partner, conjugal partner, or dependent child if you satisfy all of those boxes. Okay, the first one is you are at least 18 years old, check mark, and you are a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident of Canada, or a person registered in Canada under the Canadian Indian Act. Okay, and then you live in Canada, and if you are a Canadian citizen and you live outside of Canada, then you must show that you plan to live in Canada when your spouse become permanent residents. Okay, and if you are a permanent resident living outside of Canada, then you cannot sponsor anyone. The next one is you need to commit to support the people that you are sponsoring by signing an undertaking and sponsorship agreement that we just discussed before. And then last, you need to meet all the other requirements under the ERPA and ERPA. All right. And next, that is the income requirement. In most cases, there isn't an income requirement to sponsor your spouse or dependent child. You only need to show that you have enough money to meet their income requirement if you are sponsoring a dependent child, and that dependent child has one or more dependent children of their own. All right, and then in that case, you need to prove to the government that you have enough money. And then who can sponsor? In here, you may not be eligible to sponsor your spouse or partner if you were sponsored by a spouse or partner and you became a permanent resident less than 5 years ago. Okay, The second one is you signed an undertaking for a previous spouse or partner that you sponsor, and it hasn't been 3 years since they became a permanent resident. Okay, and then you already applied to sponsor the same spouse, partner, or child, and the decisions on that application hasn't been made. So don't duplicate the application, all right? If you are in jail, prisons, or penitentiary, then you are not able to be eligible to sponsor anyone. You are behind on payments for an immigration loan, a performance bond, court order, family support payments. Okay, so if you are in those categories, then you are not eligible. And then next, you do not give the financial support that you agree to when you sign a sponsorship agreement to sponsor someone else in the past. So before, if you sign but you did not follow, then you can't sponsor anyone for now. Okay, you declare bankruptcy and are not discharged. You are receiving social assistance for reasons other than disability, all right? For example, in Ontario, if you are a receiver of Ontario Worth, then other than disability, then you can, okay? Because if you cannot support for yourself, then you cannot support for your spouse or dependent child when they become permanent resident here. But unless you are on disability, and then you can still sponsor your wife, your husband, and your dependent children. Okay, and the next one is you are not eligible to be a sponsor if you were convicted of a violent criminal offense, and then you can't legally stay in Canada and must leave the country because you receive a removal order. Okay, so in those situations, you are not eligible to sponsor your spouse or partner or your child. Okay, so that is the sponsor. And then now next is the part of who you can sponsor. Click in here. Okay, you will spend a lot of time in reading of those information in your case. For example, to sponsor your spouse is legally married to you. If you married, and then you will need to provide the marriage certificate, okay? And at least 18 years old, can be at any gender, and is in a genuine relationship with you, not only for the purpose of getting permanent resident status, okay? No, and must not be inadmissible to Canada. And in the case of common law, the same thing with that conjugal partner and the children dependent child, and then you will need to read off those so that you can satisfy the requirement from the government of Canada. All right, and then next, that is how to apply. That is a big chunk of the video, and in the series of video regarding to sponsorship application for the inland. Okay, and then how to apply. The first one is you need to create an online account or sign in. And then there are two applications in here. The first one is sponsorship application. That is you apply to become a sponsor that I explained before. And then the second application, that is a permanent resident application. Your spouse or partner or child applies for permanent resident. And the principal applicant, that is a person that you are sponsoring, will submit both applications together online using the permanent resident portal. Okay, so this one applies through the PR portal. And remember that you cannot apply on the paper unless there is a special circumstance, and you will need to connect with IRCC regarding the request for a paper base. Okay, but for now, since September 23rd, 2022, you must apply online through PR portal. Okay, and if you can't apply online, as I said, you need to connect with the IRCC, and then the IRCC will send you the application package. And then how to submit the application, everything is in here. All right, but if you are getting help with your application from someone or from someone else, like let's say if your wife or your husband doesn't speak English, and they really need help. They don't use a computer, and then you can use the paid immigration representative, or you may use an unpaid representative. Okay, if you use the representative, it means, for example, the immigration consultant or lawyer, then you pay them, and then they will have their own account, and then it will connect with you. But that representative can't open a portal account on your behalf, and they cannot sign the application for you, and they cannot sign in for the portal using your username and password. Okay, however, if you use the unpaid representative, like let's say for you, like family members or friends or anyone else who doesn't charge you a fee, then the form IMM 5476 need to be signed by both, and then you upload in the system. Okay, and then an unpaid representative can open an online account for you, can fill out the forms for you, can communicate with the IRCC for you, and that person can help you prepare the documents that you need to upload, and then they answer the questions about immigration forms. Okay, so that is for unpaid representative. That is the link from the IRCC. So because many people ask if the friends or the husband or the wife can be the representative, and the answer here is yes. Okay, so they can open the account, fill out the form, and sign the form on behalf. All right. Okay, and then the second step, that is get your forms and documents ready, and then in here you can see the checklist for you and people you are sponsoring. You click in here. Now you must select appropriate, like in who are you sponsoring. You must select your spouse, dependent children, if this applies. Okay, and what country the persons being sponsored live in now. So it should be in Canada in order to be processed inland spousal sponsorship application. Okay, and the next question is, what are the countries that the person you are sponsoring live in? Okay, so if they live in one country, then select one country, the country that he or she live. For example, in my case, that is that person live in Vietnam. Okay, and if you have any other country, you just add in here. Okay, and then continue to work to add in the countries. If you need to know more information, just click on that question mark, and then it will show you and explain to you what to do. After that, I get the checklist and forms. And in here, you can do the checklist, and then you open to see what forms that you will need to provide the IRCC. Okay. Many. Okay, and then the sponsor must download the form that is undertaking that I discussed before, and then sponsorship evaluation and relationship questionnaire, and the principal application has any other forms, like, and many forms. Okay, and then in my country there's no special instructions for documents in this country. Many other country, for example China or India or Syria, Turkey, they may have the different special instruction. Okay, and number 3, that is pay your application fees. The fees to sponsor a spouse or partner from $1,205, and the fees to sponsor a child is from $170. All right, and then we pay online. And then after all those forms and fees paid, then you submit the completed application. All right, and then after that, you can get updates about your application online. And after the IRCC send you an acknowledgement of receipt with an application number, you and the principal applicant, that is the people that you are sponsoring, can track and update the application. Okay, so that's it, guys. That is an overview of sponsor your spouse or partner or child in Canada. Okay, and then in the next videos, I will continue to work on the creating an online account, sign in, and then do the forms. All right, so see you in the next videos. Thank you and have a good day. Bye bye.